what if it's not boredom? What if this is what peace feels like? And our body and our nervous system are just not used to feeling peace. So, when chaos is this familiar companion, we've got drama, perhaps, unpredictability, those mood swings that come with drinking and recovering from drinking, and, maybe saying something that you weren't going to share that you then tell, and there's a response comes up. And, all of these things can just create that cycle of chaos. And, here's the thing, our brain gets really attached to expecting this sort of chaos and this level of heightened stimulation and adrenaline. And it's what keeps so many of us feeling like drinking is the thing that makes life, quote unquote, fun. Chaos makes us feel alive, even when it's sometimes destructive. Welcome to the Sober Edge podcast, inspiration for alcohol-free living. I'm your host, Teri Patterson, functional nutritionist and This Naked Mind senior coach. The Sober Edge is a place to explore the infinite possibilities on the other side of drinking. In a culture soaked in booze, discover the wonder and joy of taking a different path. Meet real people living lives of purpose and passion. Learn the truth behind the alcohol myths and get ready to be motivated, inspired, and astounded by what is possible with the Sober Edge. Well, hey everyone, it's Teri back with another edition of the Sober Edge podcast. And in real time, I am getting my suitcase together to pack for the next Sober in the City event happening in a few days in Scottsdale, Arizona. And so I will be bringing you a full report of how fun it was to hang out with my sober besties and what we talked about, what I learned. Connecting with our peers, connecting with friends, connecting with people who are on this same journey is a powerful experience when we are in the midst of learning how to live alcohol-free. And so that will be coming in a very near episode. But right now, today, I want to share with you the concept around this feeling of boredom that we often get when we are in early alcohol-free living, when we're trying to figure it out and we have a lot of energy bubbling up in different directions and we're trying to make sense of all of it. And so, what I really want to talk about is this idea of chaos to start with. So, in the beginning of our journey, we can often reflect that recently there was chaos around our drinking and over drinking. Sometimes that chaos looked like just not functioning at 100% because we woke up hungover or feeling sick or had a headache all day. It could be that the chaos was created by avoiding hard conversations and then things were missed or left undone, or even a little bit darker, those blackouts that we could have during drinking episodes might actually have resulted in us not remembering a conversation that we then were playing catch up. And so all of these things really can illustrate the chaos of drinking and over drinking. And there's also the chaos of perhaps day drinking all day on vacation. And there's some highs to that, right? So, what's so interesting about chaos versus that feeling of boredom, or even, dare we call it, peace, is that we want to hang on to the highs sometimes, even when they come with the lows. And so it might be that you were used to experiencing the trade off, that even though there were some challenging moments, the vacation was amazing because we danced all night, we drank all day, we shut down the bar, danced on tables, whatever that looked like. And I can recall being in a couple of those similar situations of, dancing and just thinking that this was the life. Alcohol was fueling this amazing, experience. And there was chaos even on those vacations because kids didn't get fed on time or reservations were missed and there was no place to go for dinner and just missing out and creating some of this underlying chaos. And so this idea that peace could be the new high might seem really awkward because it takes time to realize this. And I've had so many conversations with clients about the difference between chaos and boredom and peace. And what I want to talk more about, and we'll get into this, is the idea that what if it's not boredom? What if this is what peace feels like? And our body and our nervous system are just not used to feeling peace. So, when chaos is this familiar companion, we've got drama, perhaps, unpredictability, those mood swings that come with drinking and recovering from drinking, and, maybe saying something that wasn't you weren't gonna share that you then tell and there's a response comes up and, all of these things can just create that cycle of chaos. And, here's the thing. Our brain gets really attached to expecting this sort of chaos and this level of heightened stimulation and adrenaline. And it's what keeps so many of us feeling like drinking is the thing that makes life, quote unquote, fun. Chaos makes us feel alive, even when it's sometimes destructive. And so, what happens in this stage of early alcohol freedom, kicking booze to the curb, figuring out how to become alcohol free, and then moving into that stage, that beautiful but awkward stage of living alcohol free. It's like the adolescence of alcohol freedom, right? And if you remember anything about your adolescence, it was awkward and uncomfortable, and we had a lot of conflicting emotions. And so, in early sobriety, the absence of this chaos can feel like something is missing. And this is what people often label as boredom. And we have to remember in our first 60, 90 days, dopamine regulation is still balancing out. We're still going through that healing phase. Things feel flatter because our baseline has shifted. When I studied with Dr. Anna Limke, she shared that, with alcohol, our dopamine levels are like 1,000. But with real life, our dopamine top is like 100. And so as our baseline shifts, it feels like something is missing because the highs are not as high. And so this flat feeling that we sometimes get that we might describe in this first part of sobriety, in this kind of middle part. Flat is not the same as lifeless, right? We think of flatline, right? When you're just like flat and flatline. But that is not what's happening here. What's happening is your brain is healing, your nervous system is re regulating, your connection to the chaos is getting shifted. And so it's this beautiful place of actual calm or neutrality, which we're not used to. We're often have become addicted to chaos and we expect life to be chaotic and the adrenaline carries us through and the rushing around and the being behind. And when that shifts, it takes a while for our emotions and our thoughts and our story about what is happening takes a while for it to catch up. And so, what can happen is boredom can actually be a mask for this uncomfortable growth stage. And so remember, discomfort is often, or shall I say always, associated with growth. And so if I'm bored means I'm uncomfortable with being fully present or being still. That's something that we are in discomfort over. And if you want to try just a simple experiment, you will know what I'm talking about. Sit outside, set your phone timer for 4 minutes, put your phone away, and sit there for 4 minutes. Yeah, we are just not used to stillness. It is awkward. We are looking around for something. It brings up a heightened sense of uncomfortableness, which can lead us to thinking we're in danger. We're hyper vigilant, scanning, looking around. What's this uncomfortable feeling? And so stillness is not our current default. And as we go through this process, we will learn to make stillness our default. Peace can become our default, but we're not there yet. And so we have been so used to outsourcing fun, creativity, and connection to alcohol that we see this boredom, this uncomfortable place as just something that means we're not having fun. We're not being creative. We don't feel connected. And so, again, this growth stage is simply learning how to recognize what's actually going on, no longer defaulting to I'm bored, but instead getting really curious because boredom is a signal. It's not a problem that has to be fixed immediately. It is a signal that tells us it's time to get curious. It's that beautiful cue to explore and go a little deeper. And so, what we have the power to do is first just bring awareness to this is likely going to happen. And sometimes this can also be seen as that fading effect bias where the less urgency we have, the less likely we are to take action. So perhaps when we first start working on our alcohol use disorder problem, when we first start to say, like, this feels like something that's no longer serving me, and we take a step back, there might be a sense of urgency. There often is. And so as we have less urgency to fix the problem, we become a little bit less connected to what's happening. And we can start again to label that as boredom, or maybe alcohol really wasn't what was at play here. And so sometimes boredom can look like fab. Sometimes fab, fading effect bias, is part of that boredom place. Mostly what's going on is our brain needs to rewrite the story and it needs time to heal. And so I want to invite you to use your very powerful sense of perception to rewrite that story. And we can start with just replacing I feel flat or I feel bored with I'm learning to feel safe in the midst of peace. I'm learning to feel safe in the midst of peace. How beautiful is that? And how interesting that we have to ask our brain to think that way. We have to nudge our brain toward calling this peace because we've been using alcohol as that emotional regulation. I want to feel good, I'm going to drink. I want to feel less stress, I'm going to drink. I want to get over my anger, I'm going to drink. And so we're not used to feeling the range of emotions that come with feeling bored or feeling peace. And so, yeah, I'm learning to feel safe in the midst of peace. And we can reframe boredom as curiosity and opportunity. So this isn't the end of our exciting life. And let's face it, chaos brings a lot of adrenaline and that can feel exciting, but it's not sustainable. And in the end, excitement doesn't always equal fun and enjoyment. And so it's not the end of excitement, but the beginning of this new choice. And as we invite curiosity in, we can see how we are becoming truly alive. And so, just anytime we are noticing that discomfort or that disconnection, check in and ask, how do I rewrite this story? What if this feeling is not boredom or flat, but it's peace? And I just don't recognize it yet. And then as we start to look at moving into a new relationship with peace, with stillness, with connection to ourself first and then to others, we have some tools we can use. So, first of all, we can shift our mindset. And so much of this, again, goes back to story. But let's look at peace as a superpower, not a downgrade. Like, we're not settling for peace. We're actually embracing the radical idea of radical contentment. This comes from the title of a book, and I have loved that phrase, radical contentment. We often think that contentment isn't enough. So, radical peace of mind. Remember, it's an upgrade. And then gratitude, creativity, beauty. The more we have these things in our life and the more we track these small wins, these small joys, these small pleasures, the more we will receive gratitude, creativity, and beauty. And so we have to retrain our mind to look for those simple, simple things. Another tool we can use during this transition time, this awkwardness, this adolescence, if you will, we can build new routines that allow us to embrace the gentle part of stimulation without tipping over into the overstimulation. It's like the difference between taking a walk on the beach with your child and taking your child on a roller coaster in Disneyland. There can be such a simple beauty in that walk on the beach. And the Disneyland ride will be exhilarating, but often can throw our child, if you've ever witnessed this, into that dysregulation. It's too much stimulation. And so as we back away from this chaotic existence, we get to figure out what that balance is between the highs and the lows. And so these new routines that allow us to feel novelty. Remember, novelty, your brain loves novelty. Through walking, through that repetitive motion, through journaling, through reading. These simple things can help us build new routines. And we can start to sense that we can practice that joy and excitement bubbling up without the overstimulation. And then also, we can normalize that this is part of our healing process. We often think that the way we feel we're doing it wrong or, it's taking longer than it's supposed to, or this shouldn't be happening this way. And as your brain goes through all of this, as your body goes through all of this, as your nervous system goes through all of this, there's going to be periods where we have emotions that might be more chaotic, emotions that might be more peaceful, and just recognize that we're actually healing. We're figuring out how to notice, how to tune in, how to normalize what's happening. And this is powerful. If you talk to someone who's had alcohol freedom for a long time, I'm coming up on 10 years this year. And so this is just a phase, and that is powerful. Your brain and body are going to start to really enjoy and embrace and embody that sense of peace that comes on the other side of the chaos of drinking and over drinking. And so I just want to invite you into this new way of thinking about boredom when it comes to alcohol, and really just to celebrate that your brain and body are healing. And this is, again, a beautiful recognition of, oh, yeah, I deserve to have life feel a little bit easier. I don't have to feel behind or rushed all the time. And when drinking is out of the picture, you're going to notice there's a new rhythm. And it's a beautiful rhythm, but we have to figure out what our rhythm is. So remember, sobriety isn't boring. It's this new rhythm, and it's one that makes space for deeper meaning. And so all of this is your opportunity to just redefine fun and freedom in ways that will nourish you from the inside out. So I just love this idea of noticing and checking in with our healing brain, our healing body, and this beautiful energy that comes out of freedom from alcohol. Well, that's the episode for you today. I hope it will give you some food for thought, some normalization of whatever stage you're in, and let's talk again soon. I want to thank you for tuning in to the Sober Edge podcast. This is a place for important conversations and a safe place to question everything you thought you knew about drinking. If you're looking for your sober edge, I want to invite you to connect with me at thesobernutritionist.com, where you can grab my free resource, Becoming More, a guide to loving your sober life. And I would be so grateful if you enjoyed this podcast, if you would leave a rating and review, as it will help more people find their sober edge.